Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube with another episode of the K2N vlog. This week's paddling footage is more OC6 practice footage from Saturday. My wife is steering one canoe, I'm steering another canoe. We tried to divide up the teams evenly and it came down to a photo finish on the same course. Seems like everybody last week really enjoyed that footage, so we got another round of it again this week. We swapped the cameras from my canoe into her canoe and it is pretty thrilling footage. I also have a little bit of footage from Sunday. My wife is paddling with a women's team out of Cocoa Beach. They were missing a paddler, so I was the honorary sixth lady in the boat as Roberta, so that was nice to jump in there with the ladies. I don't typically paddle in the OC6, I'm usually steering, so it was kind of nice paddling in an unlimited canoe in contrast to the spec canoes that we have here in Hernando. This week's talking point is, what is the point of learning racing technique? When we look at race technique, right, we want to try to define this term. And really, we're trying to use our movement patterns to give us the biggest possible advantage, right? We are trying to optimize and refine our movement to be so superior that when we use it, we always get a positive outcome. And so this is not like a subjective idea, right? You have a very concrete end goal that we are looking to do. And this is why racing technique does evolve over time. We figure out superior movement patterns, and now it makes the old movement obsolete, and we should all start focusing on the latest and greatest and the newest ideas to keep on that cutting edge, to keep going forward. But it is an optimization of the best possible movement that we can go through right now. So if there was a movement pattern that was superior, that would be the racing technique, right? Like, these are the ideas that we are trying to gravitate towards, is if there was a better concept, we would latch onto that, and that would be the racing technique, and then the old way would just disappear. And so when we look at racing technique, you can take this ideology and bring it backwards. You don't have to be a world champion racer. You don't have to be a prolific racer. You don't even have to race to get the supreme benefits of this optimization. By copying these movement patterns, this gives you the ability to be incredibly efficient for whatever you want to do with the paddle stroke. If you watch these videos from the beginning to the end, you will quickly see that I am not very rigid on the way that I teach these ideas. There's always a little range, right? The elbow doesn't just go right there, maybe it goes here, or maybe it goes there. But we have this range that is going to fall within this optimization and this efficiency that everybody is looking for. And so it is always a good thing to try and lean into optimized racing technique for whatever skill level that you're at, because it just gives you a final product to look at on what is the most optimal way to go through the motion. And so with paddling specifically, you have joint health that you have to monitor, right? So if you have unrefined movement patterns that don't engage your hips and your legs, now you have just opened up a window where your shoulders have to do a lot more work. So in this inefficiency, your shoulders can't produce the same amount of energy, so you can't go as fast. So from a racing standpoint, that's bad. But taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, your long-term health in the sport of paddling can be associated with how much you use your shoulders. If racing technique makes you use your legs more, this is something that protects your shoulders at all levels. So don't think that, like, hey, I have to get to a certain point before this information is useful, right? Like, these ideas kick in immediately. This is one of the nice things about the club setting that we have here at K2N in Hernando, is we take people off the street and the first things that they learn are these ideas. So from day one, they're not thinking about optimized race strategy. This is just how you paddle. We keep it very simple. In the group clinics that I've been doing, you can have first-time paddlers and multi-year paddlers, and you talk about the same idea and they learn it at about the same rate. The brand new person doesn't have this extreme learning curve because the optimization makes a lot of sense intuitively. So again, it's something to keep in mind, right? The more you can optimize towards your performance, how fast you're moving a vessel and working out towards that, the more efficient and the more optimized you've become. And now when you do things in a recreational sense, you are just super fast. I frustrate a lot of people in my club because they watch me and they're like, man, it doesn't even look like you're paddling and it looks so effortless, but you're so far ahead of us, we can't even see you anymore. And that's just really advanced race technique. I don't need to power these leverages to get a huge benefit just by using them and just kind of floating stroke to stroke. I am using all of that efficiency to my benefit without even working hard. So if I had to paddle for 100 straight hours, that would be the thing that would effortlessly carry me ahead of people that are out there with really poor movement patterns. So this video topic comes from a Facebook comment. And so when you make videos online, you become like a public figure and you have to like spread these videos, you will always run into really weird comments, right? And you have to kind of deal with them. And I try to either not engage with people if I can identify that it is going to lead to an unproductive conversation. Most people will look at a public figure and try to put them down in order to bolster their own perception of themselves and their own ego. So when you engage with them, there is no outcome that is good for anybody, right? And so Facebook being like this public forum, there are times when I do engage and there are times where I do not engage. Most of the time when I don't engage, it is people that are looking at the thumbnail picture to respond to, looking at the one-word title to respond to, or responding to the 2-sentence blurb that I have when I share these videos, right? So if they don't watch the entire video, most of the time the criticism that they have is answered in the video, right? But they are just taking it at face value to say something. So that's what this person did, right? So they're looking at last week's video on making an X shape, and the first thing they say is your hand is too high over your head, so-and-so from such and such doesn't do it that way, you are wrong, this is irrelevant, this doesn't help anybody, I can't see how this makes any sense. And again, you have to keep in mind, I don't invent this technique, right? So I am a mirror image of some other paddler, right? So I take that paddler and I comment it back and I mention that like, hey, this person's a world champion, I can forward you their email address if you'd like to talk to them about hand height, paddling distances, and so on. And this is where the conversations lead to a dead end, right? Because the pivot from that was, well, maybe you're right, but most people aren't going to be using race technique. So the information that you're presenting is useless because the people in this group aren't going to get anything out of it. And the group on Facebook is a downwinding group for surf ski, right? So I don't know if you've ever been in a downwind, but that is a great showcase of optimized racing technique, helping you catch waves, helping you keep moving, and keeping you alive as the conditions rise around you. So you would think that would be the most paramount application of good fundamental technique. But I always look at a lot of these responses and I have to double check that I am looking at it from the right vantage point, right? Maybe racing technique is useless for the majority of people because only a small percentage of the population actually races. And that's where this entire video topic comes from, right? Taking that step back and looking at it and understanding that the optimization of movement is something that is a good distinction to work towards for all skill levels. If you can take a first timer and give them this in-depth information right off the bat, you mitigate a decade of effort trying to figure it out for yourself by just going right to the end product. And whether you plan on being super fast or even applying it in a competitive scenario is irrelevant. You have a mastery of a skill and you can use it however you want to. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I hope you guys enjoy the OC6 footage, me and my wife battling to the death. We're thinking about getting a third OC6. It's really popular here in Hernando. We have enough people to fill 3 boats. We got 3 steersmen right now, and we may have a 3-way battle out on this course pretty soon. Thank you guys so much for the ongoing support, and we'll see you all next week for the next episode of the K2N blog. All right, everybody, welcome back to Lake Hernando. So we had a rainy Saturday morning. The rain just passed over and we were able to do practice without, I don't think, any rain out on the course. So my wife has got the boat of 6 here. I got the other canoe, and we have 5 in my boat. We had somebody that unexpectedly couldn't make it towards the last second, which is 2 weeks in a row now. We actually have enough to fill potentially 3 boats if everybody is in town and can attend practice. So, like I said, we have an opportunity for another canoe potentially, which would be pretty neat, having 3 of these out here, going from 1 to 3 in a short period of time. One of the things that's been holding us back is storage, and we have plenty of outdoor spacing now, and we can get pretty creative with putting the boats pretty close to each other. So we're heading up into this canal. We have this agreement that we try to stay single file in the canal system here the best we can, just in case a boat goes by. The rear boat can kind of yield behind the lead boat and allow boaters to go through. We've been lucky both times. We've had no boats going through as we've been battling through the canals here. Pretty flat, little bit of a tailwind and then a headwind coming back. So I think the wind is coming from the south in this video. Christina's doing a good job controlling the boat. This is the tailwind section here. Her and I are working pretty hard to make sure the canoes end up close to each other and trying to balance out the boats the best we can to make sure everybody is getting the best workout that they can as well. That's a lot more fun if both canoes are close to each other in speed. If one boat's, really far ahead, both groups will typically, it's like human psychology, right? You're not going to work as hard if you don't feel like you have a chance to keep up. So here we are making it up to the top turn. I made it to the top turn first this week, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't think I run into that buoy like my wife did the last time. Made a pretty hard 180 turn here, pulled the boat around. There's a little bit steeper and sharper of a turn than I typically do. Christina going full bonsai here, just barely right there, missing the tail of my canoe. And good control. You can't see the tip of the nose when you're in the steering seat, so you just have to have a feel for where that nose is up in the front. Semi-truck drivers, have that feel because they can't always see exactly where everything's at, but the more time you spend in the seat, the more you can start to feel it. Her boat starts to catch up, and we're here side by side. I pull in pretty close here, just trying to get a little bit of good footage. But lots of fun. I'm really excited everybody's taking to the OC6s. And, a lot of teamwork, the synchronization, calling the huts, the long distance racing for a lot of people is kind of a new aspect comparatively to the sprint racing in Dragon Boat. And it's a really fun outlet for everybody to kind of exercise their skills. I beat her into the canal here. She yields to let me go into this canal system here as we make our way back. And she's off to the side almost next to us, but if a boat were to appear, she would drift to the right, file in behind us, and just makes it, like I said, kind of safe. When we have 3 boats, we'll have to get a little bit more creative with this canal system. A lot of times boats don't yield through here, so you just have to be careful on where you're at, how much space you leave, because the reaction time of some of these old timers flying around the lake is pretty low. And here we go, we're back on Lake Hernando. There's about a mile left at this point to push and finish. We're going into the headwind. Her boat starts to come alive more, and my boat is starting to feel the effects of missing a human. And as we're going through, this last mile is pretty fast. It's about 7 miles an hour for these spec boats. Dividing up these teams is pretty quick, and my team is running on fumes. I have to hit the overdrive to try and keep it relevant. Christina's able to actually back off quite a bit in this last 40 seconds here, make sure she doesn't jump too far ahead here. And so if she was continuing to paddle here, she would be able to push the canoes a little bit further forward. So it's interesting, how it played out where we held the lead in my canoe for most of it, but in that last mile, again, the effects of 5 people pushing a 400-pound boat versus 6 leaves a little energy in the tank for these sprint finishes, and my team, like I said, was really struggling in this last little bit here, and I had to do everything I could to try and stay relevant. Christina's just poking as we go over the finish line, and it's a photo finish here. It's super close. I'm closest to the buoy, so it looks like I win. This is on Sunday out at Cocoa Beach. We're on the intercoastal part on the Indian River side. We launched out of Kelly Park, and we go into this little canal system, which is super flat, super wind protected. Really cool little venue here. There's tidal effects and shallow water and stuff, so it's one more element that we don't have to deal with here on Lake Hernando. And there's all kinds of vessels and stuff. This is a cool little alley to go back and forth on if you wanted to work on drafting in small boats, right? These vessels throw off pretty good wake. We're working on a few starts here. I'm in seat 4 with the orange hat. Christina's up in seat 1 setting the tempo. And this is potentially her Chatterjack crew. And she's super excited to go out there and participate in the OC6 to get her belt buckle this year. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I'll see you all next week for the next K2N blog episode.